Why do we sit here being silent, watching our leaders turn into tyrants? Have they forgotten which side they're fighting for? Checks and balances set aside and rule of laws, youth and ours, and Constitution openly ignored. Man, I'm not okay. Think we are being played. Is it time for right and left to join a greater cause? Man, I'm not okay. The rich claim to be victimized just to attack the marginalized. Is 1% really worth more than all the sick and poor? Always preaching about fellowship while planning their dictatorship. Now we've seen how all of this plays out before. Man, I'm not okay. Think we are being played. Time for you and I to join our country's call. Man, I'm not okay. Ever wonder all the mystery, why they whitewash our history, keep dividing is their plan? All in all, such a scam. Algorithm very sly, only used to spread the lies. Politicians know well, hate is simple to upsell. Man, I'm not okay. Think we are being played. Time for you and I to join our country's call.
We are not okay. America is not okay, and we all know that. Former Congressman Joe Walsh, this is The Social Contract with Joe Walsh. Let's figure out how to get okay together. So let me give an intro to you and take it away, my friend. I want to say three things at the start. Thank you, everybody who's coming on board and listening to us. This is a socialist and a libertarian meet in a bar, part whatever.
Part 5.
Part 5. Xander, we're growing something here because the comments that I get organically from people who are becoming regular listeners, they fucking love what you and I are trying to do. So kudos, and thank you everybody for listening. Spread the word. Make sure you subscribe to Xander and Defiance and me, Joe Walsh, and I'll kick it off, man. You. So what is on my young socialist friend's mind this week?
Well, first, and this is a little bit meta, I'm going to do the dangerous thing of trying to share my screen here. I made a website for our show, if people can see.
Oh my God.
It's thesearchforsolutions.com. And so it says hunting for the ideas we actually agree on. And if you go down, it says a little bit about us, but then it starts tracking all the different policies that we've talked about that we found agreement on throughout our different conversations. You can see our conversations here, and each policy is tagged to a different episode. So, expanding the people's house, you can go to episode 1 and see it, whatnot. So it's just a way to start cataloging. I don't know exactly where we're going with it yet, but it's a way to start cataloging everything we're chatting about. And
what is that website?
It's called thesearchforsolutions.com.
Thesearchforsolutions.com. Everybody put that somewhere. Thesearchforsolutions.com.
I'll put it in the chat too.
Xander will put it in the chat. Next time we'll be really sophisticated and we'll put a graphic behind me in Xammer. Thesearchforsolutions.com. That's awesome. Thank you, Kat. That is awesome. Jinx, Kat, jinx. You and I said that's awesome at the exact same time, Kat. That is awesome.
I almost put this is going to be the dumbest chart ever. I almost put this in the website, but the Venn diagram. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that Venn diagram. Yeah. We're looking for the middle. All the other shows go, the libertarian's going to argue about these things. The socialist's going to argue about these things. We're going to tell each other how dumb it is. We're not interested in that. We know we disagree on a lot. It's fine.
And by the way, Xander, that's where everybody listening, that's where all your media voices and influencers make big money. Totally. The ones on each side, and they preach to their sides, and man, they gin up a following. What Xander and I are trying to do here ain't easy. and it ain't going to bring in the big bucks right away. But again, I want to emphasize, even though he and I have gotten to know each other the last few months and we love each other like brothers, Xander and I fundamentally disagree on most things. That's there, and that's why this is so fun to go through with him.
Joe, what do you think? Blank slate. So here's a good example of why this Venn diagram thing is so important. A lot of things that we talk about in society.
Keep talking. I'm going to swat a bee. Keep talking. I'm listening.
I'll give you a good example. Gun control, big topic in our politics, right? People are very excited to talk about it on both sides because there's strong, passionate basis on both sides of that argument. But the gun control argument really in this country is limited to assault rifles, right? And so assault rifles are, no one's talking about taking away handguns. There's a mental health component, but that one's actually broadly agreed upon by both sides for the most part. But the assault rifle thing is like really what people spend a lot of time arguing about. Assault rifles are 2% of total gun homicides, right? So we have about 10,000 gun homicides a year in this country. 2%, we're talking about, what's 2% of 10,000? 1% is 100. So 200 homicides, right? That might be, I might be messing up that math. I think it's something around that. I don't mean to be dismissive over that issue. But if you're talking about the top things America needs to tackle as we move deeper into the 21st century, those 200 homicides wouldn't make the list of like top problems to solve, but they do make the list because it's so volatile and people feel so passionately about it. So on these types of shows where there's people from both sides chatting about it, then that conversation is overrepresented. So something I wanted to ask you is, let's not start from that position of what's the most volatile thing we can talk about. What do you think top 5 problems America needs to solve and have a much better handle on 10 years from now? We need to be living in a radically different world. What's your top 5? I know corruption's one. Washington corruption is one.
Yeah.
So I'll put that down.
And I'll riff on that in one sec. I just want to just give a note on your gun topic.
Yeah.
Because this is, I'm a Second Amendment absolutist as I'm a First Amendment absolutist. The whole name assault weapons, to me, I don't know what that is. Every gun's a fucking assault weapon. Virtually every gun sold in this country today is a semi-automatic weapon. I find, Xander, this topic, not you. You're of the left, but you're very knowledgeable about guns. There are plenty of issues where the right is just kind of not knowledgeable when they take a position. I have found over the years the left is like super not knowledgeable about guns.
Yeah.
And
so I think
like,
when we say the left and right, oftentimes it's shorthand for urban or rural, and those are just very different lives. Rural, you're growing up hunting. You're just on the left. If you're in a city, you're dealing with police all the time. Like they're just very different lives. And sometimes I think left and right makes an assumption around more ideological anchors in our arguments versus very different lifestyles that those two groups are living that then inform us in different.
And I would just use that issue speaking to all of us. We argue about shit and we debate shit when a lot of us need more information on the stuff we're fighting about and debating. I think it would help the debates and the fights. Your question, as I look in the future, I'm just going to riff.
Riff away.
Public government corruption.
Yeah.
Is a huge issue. The second big issue is our political system is on the verge of literally falling apart without major reform. I mean major political reform. The way we vote, how we vote, the electoral college, how we draw districts, how big our district. You and I've talked about it before, Xander. We've been holding off on major political reform because that fuckhead in the White House is burning this country down. So like we're all focused on that. But in the next 10 years, major reform is going to knock our political doors down.
So if I can say one and two back to you,
yeah.
just so I'm getting it, you're basically saying the corruption involved with governing as one, and the kind of vulnerabilities and faults in our electoral system as two. Is that how you break those two apart? So you said
Yes.
public governance, corruption, and major political reform. You're saying governance and election, and the issue is with both those as your top
Huge.
two. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, continue on. I just want to make sure I was tracking.
Yeah, we're at a point right now, Xander, where a lot of Americans no longer believe or accept our election results. And it's not just MAGA. So this needs to be addressed.
No,
like,
I think it's like over a third of people total don't believe.
Yeah, like
I'll find the data on that.
Xander, I always said in my lifetime, I don't think a Republican will ever win the popular vote again. I said that a while ago. Trump then did. But like, and I thought eventually that was going to break us, because eventually half the country was going to say, fuck it, I no longer accept the Electoral College. So we're at that point with a lot of issues.
30%. It's heavily partisan, but it's 30% of Americans.
Yeah, and it's growing. And think about this, Xander. So Trump started this whole thing called mid-decade redistricting last year. So imagine we get to a place where every 2 years we're redrawing districts. The average American is going to think, who the fuck is my representative? This is really wacky. We used to just do it every 10 years. So we're on the cusp of major reform. We need major reform.
Can I ask you a quick question as you're saying that? Because there's almost two pieces to that. There's a political electoral reform, but there's also embedded in that, and I don't know if you'd rate this in the top 5, an information environment issue also, and bullshit just being able to get out and proliferate so quickly. And, we can talk about the policies to attack that, but we're in, it appears to me, an information crisis that is heavily related to what you just laid out there. Because our election system is safe, but the people who believe that know that are increasingly less. There's increasingly less people who understand that.
So that would be my third big issue.
Okay.
And I don't know, and I don't know what to do about it, because we're now at a point, Xander, where you and your neighbor, though you probably don't have neighbors, you Mr. Jeremiah Johnson wilderness man. We're at a point in this country where you and your neighbor now live in two different realities, right? And again, everybody says, let's go back to, Walter Cronkite and 3 networks. Fuck that. That had its own issues. This is a marketplace.
Right. We didn't know about Vietnam for fucking 8 years because, or 6 years until Cronkite got out there in like 68.
But now there are a billion media sources, information sources, and we all go to our own. We're all living now in different worlds. What do we do about that? The fourth big one is this technological change called AI. If we don't fucking get a grasp on this and understand it and figure out how to use it for the positive, we're fucked. That's 4. I'm going to stop there. I could think of a 5th right away.
Question around the AI ones.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of things that, when people talk about AI anxiety, there's a bunch of things they could be referencing. One is workforce displacement.
Mm-hmm.
2 is a hyper-competitive military environment and an economic environment with other countries. Like there's this tension with, if you don't embrace AI, you could basically be the Ottoman Empire in the late 1900s, where you're just in the Stone Age comparatively to everyone else because they were 50 years late on industrializing, right? That's essentially what happened to the Ottomans. 1,000-year empire went away after World War I completely because they just didn't industrialize like the other rival nations. And so there's this feeling that, if you're 10 years late, you're essentially 1,000 years late, by the way, because this tech is so transformative. At the same time, we've seen unregulated tech. We just talked about it, the information environment, unregulated tech that we weren't careful with, absolutely obliterate our information environment and polarize this country against one another. And so there's this tension. There's this very healthy tension with those two issues. What comes up when you say it? What do you think?
I'm primarily focused on worker displacement.
Mhm.
But we're going to have a presidential election in 2028, Xander. And for all we know, 2/3 of the ads are going to be AI bullshit.
Mhm.
Like, oh my God, we've not faced that. What the fuck? I mean, so this is upon us, but I think worker displacement is the big one. And we think about China, our competitor. China doesn't give a flying fuck about worker displacement because they're not a democracy and the government can just do whatever the fuck it wants. We're not that. So that's a big issue. Hey, the final issue I'd put in front of you is the issue of immigration. I think it's our biggest public policy issue. I think Trump has taken it to an ugly, 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 ugly un-American extreme because Democrats dropped the ball on it. This country in the next 10 years has to right itself on immigration. We have to be that shining city on the hill. We got to get back there, but it's a big fucking issue.
Question on that one. I feel like
Mm.
1 through 4 was you independently saying these are core issues that our country has to tackle. Number 5 feels like more it's your political assessment that this is such a polarizing issue. The non-Trump side has to have a stance that makes sense to people because it'll take us down if we don't have a stance. Is that what you're saying? Like, do you think current immigration is so out of control that we need to wrap our arms around it? Or are you saying this is an issue that is so polarizing we need to have an answer for it?
Outside of AI and technology and information, I can
Yeah.
think of no other policy issue that's going to impact this country more the next 10 years. We are
Ye-
not, Xander, making enough babies in this country to keep this economy growing. We need immigrants. We need to welcome immigrants. The way, forget about what Trump's doing. Our immigration policy, and Democrats have fucked this issue up too, big time. We've had a broken immigration policy forever. And I've said this publicly, Xander, like, why the fuck are we deporting people who are in this country illegally? Fuck that. We should be deporting the politicians and the corporate CEOs who have crafted this system that nobody understands.
Mhm.
And when Trump leaves, we're still going to have an immigration system, an asylum process that's not understandable and is complicated. You come here on a work visa. What does that mean? I mean, we've got to fix it.
You know what's crazy? This
What?
this is why I like this. I'm reading your top 5.
Uh-oh.
Governance reform, electoral reform, uh, information environment, tech change driven by AI, impact of AI essentially, and
Yeah.
immigration. I probably have a few that I would float in there as competitive to those 5, but I'm in complete agreement that those could easily be top 5 issues.
Which,
Complete agreement.
if you floated a couple in there, which ones would you add?
Probably education reform. I just don't feel like we're making people for the 21st century, and we haven't for some time. And there's all these tools. Sometimes we talk about like the downside of AI and technology and whatnot. We have so many new ways to teach young people. That's not about just information retention and tests and whatnot. And I just don't. I just feel like there's a type of person we need to make for the 21st century that's logical, that understands debate, that can't be sold fallacies, that is hyper resilient, and someone that can learn how to be retrained and whatnot. So I just think there's just we could really look at education in
And
just
healthcare.
eh, healthcare is a big one. Healthcare could be in there.
Yeah.
Healthcare
Yeah.
is almost part of this like more broad thing I would throw in there, which is just guaranteeing your basic needs.
Well,
I just don't think.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Xander, that goes to your and my eternal wrestling match of, do we fundamentally change what our concept of human rights are in this country? And you and I have
Yeah,
gone back and forth about negative rights and positive rights, but I think that you know where I stand, but that conversation needs to be had.
that's a tough conversation for sure that needs to be had in this country. Yeah, I would say it's tough between us. We'd have lots of spaces where we disagree. I was thinking about our conversation though last time. I wrote a little bit about it on Substack over the weekend. I would be more partial to your libertarian stance if I felt like people had leverage at the negotiating table with corporations. And I think that's really all I want. Is like, I think that's better than any labor policy. If people know at the end of the day they can walk away from that conversation in the same way that employer can walk away, yeah, that they can say, "Hey, it's all right if this doesn't work out." If we're talking about a partnership here and I can engage you, you're the employer, I'm the potential employee, and we can engage in a talk that feels like a partnership that we're negotiating. It's like, "Hey, I want 40 hours of your time to work at my burger's place because I need someone flipping these burgers and whatnot." And I can at least walk away, and maybe I can in our system, I can walk away from you, but I can't really if I'm living in a certain way, I don't have the ability to walk away from you and your peers. I just want that person to
Yeah.
be like, "Yeah, this is what I look." Everyone wants to improve their life. I'm not saying the entry level is going to be fantastic, and you're drinking wine all day and everything, but I want them to at least say like, "You know what? You haven't enticed me to spend 30 or 40 hours of my week flipping your burgers yet." And so that's really, I think I could believe in your
Yeah.
more kind of laissez-faire style of a free market if I believed the most desperate of employees had some more negotiating leverage
How
because they
could
knew
you
their
get that?
survival wasn't at stake.
How
Well,
could
I
you
was
get that?
talking to a friend this morning. I was talking to Latasha Brown from Black Voters Matter. I was thinking about bringing Latasha on just to have YouTubers chat because it's like it'd be fucking fantastic. It'd be fireworks. You're two of the most charismatic people I know. But I was talking to Latasha this morning because we were talking about crafting the future
Yeah.
and what that needs to look like. And one of the things we spoke about is we've never reassessed what we can provide citizens based on the cost. Like housing was never really, or food was never really on the table because the cost of producing food was basically societal wide labor. If you go back to like the 1700s, everyone was a farmer, say for 10% of society. And it took everyone throwing in to make enough food for everyone to have. And since then, that cost has gone down so much to the extent where if we were providing a baseline of food for everyone, it would be a relatively small line item and a relatively small workforce doing that. And I'm not saying it has to be like, I don't know, government operated farms. It could be a private public partnership, however we get there, but it'd be relatively cheap compared to like the totality of our government.
No, look, Xander, on these issues, you've got me on the ropes more than I have you on the ropes.
Mm.
You really do, because like my fallback, and this is a shitty take, it's generally just philosophical.
Mhm.
Like Xander would say, we should guarantee everyone 3 square meals a day. I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
And you could make a solid cost benefit defense of that. You could make a societal defense of that. My lead defense against it would be no, it's anti-freedom. To do that, even if you're taking 2 cents out of my pocket to do it, you're taking from me. I oppose that on a matter of freedom. You have a much better, more practical argument. Now, I could make a practical argument. You have a stronger one. And
Well,
I think
can I make a practical argument against that freedom claim?
Yeah.
Here's the thing I would say to you, Joe. If someone is hungry, you're going to pay for it one way or another. And what I'm offering is an opportunity to pay for it where we get ahead of the suffering and it's cheaper because they eventually contribute. You're gonna pay for it because you're gonna pay for the police that are gonna, arrest this guy because he stole your apple because he didn't have his apple. You're going to pay for it for his incarceration while he's being punished for taking your apple. You're going to pay for it because your house costs 10x more than it needs to, because in our country, there are bad neighborhoods and good neighborhoods because some are more dangerous than others because there's a lot of hungry people in some. You're going to pay for it because of the private school, because that public school, you don't trust that public school with your kid's education because it's not good enough. And so that's what I would say. The healthcare
No, I hear
argument,
that.
we see it now. We pay so much more for these people's healthcare because they come into these hospitals without insurance, and
Right,
then they
yep.
get treated, and we have to fucking backstop the hospitals. And so
Yeah,
that's all I'd say is your penny's going to be taken either way to create stability in your life. And investing on the front end is going to be cheaper.
Healthcare is a real unique one because there are uniquely American reasons why our healthcare is so expensive. We can get into that another time.
Yeah.
But no, Xander, you're right. And again, that goes to maybe I'm more pie in the sky as a libertarian. I want it to be voluntary. I want everybody in this country who has to help take care of those who don't have. That to me is a preferable society. I'm always trying to push us down that road. Like I still believe, my friend, I want you to keep my taxes super low because I want to do what I want with that money. I want to be charitable with that money. I want to take care of my neighborhood with that money. I don't want government forcing me to. But again, I appreciate that your argument practically is stronger. And
Well,
maybe, Xander,
I want you
go.
to invest in your freedom. It's going to take some investment to have that freedom, is all I'm saying, right? The freedom you're talking about, where you can go, there's levels to
Completely.
freedom, right? The freedom to, I don't know, to be alive, eat food, and have access to it is one level, right? The freedom to go where you want. We have to invest in that. We have to invest in the stability of our society. Like I have a farm in Liberia where they don't invest in that stability. They just don't have enough money to invest in that stability. My farmers are less free because of
Hmm.
the instability, because someone can go take that farm. And it's happened over and over and over to them that someone can walk up and take it and just rule through that means. And so what I want to do is create
It's
a
a balance.
stable place where you can enjoy your freedom, the core parts of your freedom. You move around, you can go where you want, you can eat what you want, you can live the life you want.
No, you're right, Xander, and it's a balance. Look, I live in the United States of America. It's not like we don't have a government. So I've already acknowledged that I do pay income taxes that go to certain things. Understood. And what you and I debate and talk about and argue about is trying to find that needle, that balance.
Yeah. Well, let me come back to the
I'll throw one more at you.
Yeah.
And everybody listening to us is going to agree with you. I've never fucking believed in the minimum wage at all. I think I can make freedom issues against the minimum wage. I can make practical issues against the minimum wage. I believe in a society where there is no minimum wage, and you want to hire that worker at McDonald's or whatever, man, you own that franchise, you better offer more. I think employers would offer more. But again, that goes to maybe I'm too pie in the sky, Xander.
Cynthia Mercado says our taxes are going to war. What the fuck? It's such a good point. This is like a really challenging thing with America is like you can make a more socialist argument, but then people go, well, what am I getting? In other places, you feel like you're getting something for your investment. Like I feel like the Swedes feel like they're getting something for their investment in their government. In America, you almost have the worst of both worlds, right? It's like you actually are taxed a decent amount, depending on who you are. And you don't see that return in quite the same way because so much of our money goes towards debt service and war and all these other things. I want to get to your, go ahead.
Xander, can I make one other really important point? And this is perspective. I know you get this. I get this. I don't abhor. I recoil against all of our comparisons against any European countries, our European allies. We are so fucking big. Germany, France, the UK, these are like the size of American states. Right, Sweden, the size of what? Indiana. I think it's half the size of Indiana.
Sweden's really small. I think Sweden's only a couple million.
Man, my geography sucks.
But
I like
4
land
million.
mass. I wonder how big land mass it is.
Of Europe?
No, of Sweden. Compare Sweden size-wise.
It's decent size-wise, but it's so cold. How big is the population of Sweden? Size-wise, I think it's
probably a few million people.
Population-wise. It's 10.6. A little bigger than I thought.
Oh, bigger than I thought. But we're talking about these are like American states, our European allies. So it's often really difficult to compare it because you can be more innovative and sometimes implement more reform. I mean, that's what our founders believed in states, experimenting in states. That's what Europe does. There, I'm done with that.
Here's the honest truth about Europe. This isn't to support my case. This is just the reality. Part of the deal with Europe since the Marshall Plan, really, as we competed with the Soviet Union for who was going to be the dominant economy in the world, we said, here's the deal. Our Navy is going to protect your commerce. So we're going to spend a lot of money on our military to protect your Navy. I'm sorry, to protect your commerce. And the trade-off is you're going to be part of our global economy, not theirs. You're gonna use the dollar as your reserve currency. You're gonna trade with us and our partners. You're gonna not trade with the people we tell you not to trade with. This is why we can embargo so effectively places like Cuba and whatnot. And so for a long time, America paid a good swath of the entire global economy's military budget to protect shipping routes, which then allowed Europe to invest in a social safety net in a way that America didn't and really couldn't because of the size of our military investment. And so post this is part of Trump's success, and because we didn't have good answers around this. Post the end of the Cold War, we kept making that investment, but we didn't really have a rival to justify why we were making this massive investment, everyone else's protection and shipping routes. And so you see, even now, as Trump basically called BS on that in some ways, right? In some ways, he was saying, like, why are we spending all this? I'm not saying he intended to fix it. I'm saying this is what he tapped into, though, in a very understandable confusion about why we were still investing at this scale with our military, specifically with our Navy protecting shipping routes, when we no longer had a rival country that we were trying to win kind of economic share from. And I think it was a fair question. It was a fair question. You see already in Europe, as they are fearing Trump pulling out of NATO, making investments in their own military might, and talking about clawing back some social programs because now they have to make that investment themselves. And so I don't think the population argument is as strong as that we created an economic world order that had us invest in the military defense of a broad swath of the countries that we admire for their social programs. And they were able to do it partially because they weren't paying for their own defense, or at least not to that extreme.
Agreed.
I think it's important to call out, because you see, like, the Dutch are having hard conversations. The Germans are having hard conversations now about shit. We've got to build up a serious military because we no longer trust Trump and NATO. Where's that money coming from?
Agreed. And I acknowledge that. And again, Trump doesn't give a fuck about our allies. He doesn't give a fuck about NATO. I think he works for Putin, all the rest. But that this moment needed to come.
Yeah. I think that there was a reckoning that needed to come, because the American military is just become this absurd line item. Let's go back to your top 5, though. I want to talk about it, because this is what's so exciting having these conversations with you, Joe. Our top 5 is pretty similar. Similar. And so let's talk about one. Let's talk about the information environment. Let's do that one. Information environment. What do you do about it, Joe? We live on screens. The screens are betraying us. Elon Musk and Larry Ellison own 2 of the largest social media platforms in the world, Trump's buddies, and are changing the algorithm. What do you do about the information environment?
So when you say, what do you do? That to me is always, what do you want government to do? That is really what we're asking.
Yeah.
That's what we're asking. This is a problem.
What's the role of
a societal problem? What's the role of government to fix it? My default is always, I want government out. I don't want government regulating the internet. I want people to be able to say what they say on the internet, Fox News, MS Now, all of it. And that's still generally where I am. I had a guy on last week, though, who's an expert in this field. And he brought up the issue of the algorithms and AI, and why not? He was trying to find something that I'd approve of. He said, why not government writing legislation to make it all transparent? Everything that's posted on the internet, anywhere, if it's AI, it has to be identified as AI. Anything that's spread because of an algorithm, the algorithms have to be transparent. So people know when shit is being put in front of them that is driven by algorithms. Xander, this isn't my area, but I could go down that road where I want government. It's like with campaign finance to me. I just want everything transparent, and then I want the consumer to decide. Does any of that resonate at all?
100%. I think you're getting to something very important. So we already have a law in the books called Section 230.
Yeah.
Section 230 says basically the platforms are not liable for the information, but the publisher is. So if Joe Walsh
Which
goes
makes
on
sense to me.
Facebook,
Which makes
that
sense
makes
to me.
sense to you. Great. So Joe Walsh goes on Facebook and says, I don't know. So let's all kill Donald Trump tonight. I'm
Mhm.
organizing a rally to march to Washington and kill him. You're liable for that information. Facebook is not.
Should not be.
Now, when the original internet, like these first kind of message board sites existed, there was no algorithm. You posted it, it went to the top. If I posted another post, that one went above yours. And people, the way they consumed that information, browsed those posts, and that was it. These platforms were essentially just neutral town squares where people were,
Yeah.
posting whatever. Algorithms changed that. When I see something on Twitter or TikTok or YouTube Shorts these days, is not because I decided to follow Joe Walsh. It's because the algorithm said, I like guys like Joe Walsh. Here's another piece of content. And so there's been a recent push to say, hey, Meta, or hey, Google, the moment you grab a piece of information and you put it in front of Joe Walsh and say, I want you to read this, and he's not following this person, you have algorithmically lifted this content to. You're as much a publisher as the person who wrote it.
So make that illegal.
So make you liable. You don't have to make it illegal. You're just liable
make you
for it,
liable.
which would make them a lot more. They would have a lot more systems in place to determine if that content they're lifting is in fact damaging in some way.
Xander, is there a way, again, this is out of my area, but is there a way that Meta and Google and all the rest can be forced to make that transparent? Like,
Well,
Xander, this is being put in your face. This was driven by an algorithm. An algorithm put this in front of your face.
you can make it transparent, but if ultimately at the end of the day it is, I don't know, Joe Walsh saying, I'm not even comfortable saying this example. It's someone saying, let's go kill Trump. Here's the plans. It crosses into illegality. Being transparent or not, that's still a very damaging thing to be showing to lots of folks. And so with AI, these companies now, I'd say the pushback before was Meta and YouTube going, not only shouldn't we be liable for content, this is before the algorithms were lifting all the content, but it's impossible. People are posting a billion things a day. We can't keep up with it. Now with these AI tools, talking about AI for good, they could flag content, understand what's going on there, maybe run it through a last rung of a human interface to get a final check on it. But the ability to monitor for illegal or I'm talking about illegal now. We're not talking about First Amendment rights. We're talking about the things that the poster would be held liable for because it's so criminal.
A specific incitement to specific violence, right?
Yes.
Hey, Xander, again, stupid question. Are algorithms for these big boys, are they revenue generating? Like, why do they use algorithms?
Algorithms. So I came from for people that don't know my background, I built a couple social networks in Silicon Valley. Google bought one of them. It was called Keefe. I also built a VR meditation platform that was acquired a while ago. That was also social in nature. They are mining your time. That's what they're doing, right? They are mining your time because the more time they have you on this screen, the more ads they can serve you. So they're mining your time. What TikTok figured out best, TikTok really changed the game in a lot of ways. What TikTok figured out best is you might say you want to follow Xander, but I really know you want to see Brazilian cheerleaders. And so I'm paying attention to what you look at and how long you look at it. Because your intellectual self said you want Neil deGrasse Tyson, Xander Schultz, but I think you want Brazilian volleyball. And I'm right, because you stayed on that screen a little longer, and then you went to the next one. And so that's what these algorithms are doing.
So they do it just to they want to keep your eyeballs.
Totally. And why they start shifting towards this dangerous area of what they're engaging with is we stick on volatile content. It's like all the sins are what we stand. Even if hypothetically that's not where we want to be, my algorithm right now on YouTube is not who I want to say I am, or like if I'm more, choosing my experience, not what I would choose. But it knows these volatile uh sins, right? It's sex, it's lust, it's violence,
Xander,
it's all these things.
Xander,
Yeah.
when we're all behind a wheel and there's a big car crash on the other side of the highway, we
We look
all
at it.
slow down.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the game. That's the game they're in, and there's a world to say, okay, rage. Sin Worthington says rage. Sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly there, but that's the game they're in. And what we're saying is one of the things the algorithms found is most um, sticky. It gets you to stay longest. Is seeing a fellow countryman of yours saying something that you hate, and that feels dangerous to you. And that's one of the best stickiness tools is that particular experience. And so they got way over oriented. The algorithms got way over rotated
So,
towards serving you that experience. That is not good for our
okay.
democracy. It's not good for our mental health. It's
So,
not good for a lot of
okay.
things.
Okay. This is cool, Xander. And this is really an area of education for me. As a libertarian, I am super open to looking at the government making AI content and algorithm content transparent, identifiable, and I'm willing to discuss liability. That's really interesting. Would you, as a socialist leaning kind of a dude, would you outlaw algorithms or would you focus on liability?
No, no, no. I don't have it. I think I think we just need to. I would just focus on the liability. I think that the algorithms can be a great tool and get you kind of information you're
Right?
interested in, discovery. Think about algorithms on Spotify. By the
Yeah.
way, we've been surrounded by AI for a while. Generative AI is good
Yeah.
where it can chat with you, but
Yeah.
these feeds utilize AI. That's what AI is. In
Yeah.
general, think about your Spotify mix where it's discovery. It's great. Like they can be great. What we're saying is there's a piece of this that's been really, really fucking damaging to society. And so we need to get our arms around that. So I think it is about holding these platforms that at the end of the day are really now controlling what you see a lot more than the poster. You and I are just trying to plug into the algorithm, really. We're like, I think people are interested in civic discourse. The reason you said at the top of this, we probably won't make that much money. The algorithm doesn't like us at all. You know
Not
what I
at
mean?
all. Not at all.
The algorithm wants us screaming our head off at each other, tell each other how dumb they are. But guys in our business, that's why they do that. So we need to change the incentive structures for the conversations and content that gets lifted on these algorithms, not just the ones that butt up against the First Amendment, but just having general liability for harm. And we saw, I think there's a case against Meta, kind of a unprecedented case where they were found liable for a young child or a group of teenagers that commit suicide
Oh, wow.
because they weren't careful enough about the content they were sharing with them. Let me look.
Hey, Xander,
Where am I frozen?
I
There
think
we
you're
go.
back. A listener just asked, can algorithms be static or do they learn like AI learns? A listener just asked.
They are AI. So they're
They
learning
are
like
AI.
AI learns. Before AI, there was a thing called everyone called it machine learning. That's what they called it, and that's what all these algorithms are built on, is machine learning tools. I am right. There was a case recently where Meta was held liable for the suicides of a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old, um, because of the content that they were serving them, which was, I don't know enough about the case to tell you definitively what the content was, but a jury thought it was
Mhm.
essentially persuading them towards suicide
Mhm.
and damaging their mental health, which is really
I,
interesting.
at first blush, I'd have real issues with that, but I'd like to explore the case.
I'd love to learn more. Yeah, I agree. Like
But
that could
Xander,
easily
look,
be a slippery slope. Yeah, but
you've taught me something this hour. Prior to algorithms, it was the publisher platform dynamic. You
yeah,
say something violent, illegal, go after the publisher. It's not the
yeah.
platform. You're saying now the platform, in essence, with algorithms and AI, but it has become more like a publisher.
Yes. Yeah. That's the argument. And I'm pulling that from really smart people that are having these conversations in Washington. Miles and I, when we were running our think tank, did a Section 230 workshop. And we had Jim Jordan's office there and the Trevor Project, which has LGBTQ, people that they are supporting and whatnot. And I'll say it was a very open conversation where people took positions you didn't think they would. Like, one of the things that we talked about is getting rid of anonymity on these platforms, the ability to be anonymous and validating that they're real people, right? Is this a real person or is this a Russian state actor, right?
Love that. Yeah.
The Trevor Project, which we considered occupying a far left quadrant of the room, goes, a lot of our gay kids are anonymous online for a while they're figuring out what's going on because it can feel dangerous to not be anonymous.
Yeah.
And so that created a really healthy conversation around, well, maybe the platforms have to verify who the people are, but they don't publicly have to be listed as who they are. But we at least need some verification that these are real Americans. We need to know who to hold accountable. Right. So it's actually pretty bipartisan conversation on how to go about solving this.
Yes, and I do think this is an area where you could get a bipartisan piece of legislation. I will just say again, as a libertarian, this is the kind of reform I'm open to much more than the speech itself that's penalized. Like, again, we see with our European allies, if you put a post on Facebook in Germany or another country, Muslims fucking suck, they're dangerous. Christians, Jews suck, they're dangerous. That speech you can get arrested for. The notion of hate speech is protected speech. I always want to protect. But these types of structural reforms, Xander, I'm with you.
There's a long precedent of that in America. The ACLU backed the KKK in freedom of speech protection, right? This is pretty core to our country. And I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree on that fact. I'm just saying I think what you and I are both looking for is, the blue ocean theory. In startups, they talk about it, right? You don't want to go to the red ocean where it's bloody. There's lots of people beating each other up and eating each other. Except you want to go to the blue ocean. I'm not saying the content of the speech should or shouldn't be interrogated entirely. I'm just saying we got a bigger problem on our hands that's really driving polarization, which is we invented these things. We can't get them away from our face. And now some companies sold us these things. Other companies now have got us addicted to feeds that are harming our belief in each other and the integrity of the information right now.
Agreed. And the last thing I'll say, my socialist friend, is this all needs to be balanced with we're responsible for ourselves. Individual responsibility. Pull your face away from that screen. Put it down. Get off of Facebook. At some point, we have responsibility in this issue as well. That's all. This has been fun, man.
This has been great. All right, so we got to go. We've actually got I'm going to have to add to our website. We have our agenda now. We have, on top of the policies, we have a top 5 issues we want to talk about and tackle moving forward. Maybe we can solve a few of them, or at least figure out ways to solve them that could have.
This is good stuff, Sandra. This is good stuff, man.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, man. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, follow, and share The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple, Spotify. Plus, don't forget to subscribe to The Social Contract on Substack. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.